Hey everybody, it's Party Elite here with another episode of Total Breakdown. We've got another fantastic tournament battle today from the Warhammer Fantasy League, showcasing a great engagement between the High Elves of Romulan Dog and the Wood Elves of Lotus Moon. We begin, of course, with talk of composition and deployment, and as you can see, both armies have come prepared for a lot of skirmishing today, so let's take a look at their compositions. Over here, Teclis is in charge of the High Elves on horseback, while up front over here, 3 units of spearmen provide some protection to this line of 4 units of archers. Right behind them, you can see the Lothern Seaguard with shields to the left and to the right, and just in front of those Lothern Seaguards, you can see we've got 2 units of Eagle Claw Bolt Throwers, hoping to get damage done right from the start, I would imagine. While all the way back here, you can see a pair of Dragon Princes, one to the left, one to the right, and even further back, a pair of Illyrian Reaver Archers, one here and one here. I think they're just to scout out any potential Vanguard deployment shenanigans from the Wood Elves. That's the only reason I can see them being deployed so far back. Meanwhile, on the other side of the field, you can see the Wood Elves are being led by none other than the stereotypical, I think, Glade Lord atop a Forest Dragon. We see that pretty often. And alongside her, we have a Spellsinger of Life, and we also have a Spellsinger of Beasts, both of them up in the air as well. Up front, you can see 4 units of Deepwood Scouts ready to get shots off as soon as the High Elves approach, while right behind them, a pretty spread out army. You can see some Internal Guards to the left and to the right here, another unit to the right over here, and in the center over here, if we can call it that, we've got the War Dancers with the Aserai Spear alongside this unit of Eternal Guards. Then, on the far flanks, we have the Sisters of the Thorn pushing in already for some early aggression. So as I said, both of these armies have come in with a lot of skirmishing capabilities ready to go. So let's take a look at how it all breaks down. As you can see, the Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower already firing away, trying to get some work done into Wood Elf leadership. And take a look at this magnificent micromanagement over here as the leadership here dodges back and forth, zigzags to try and dodge all of these shots. Maybe one shot there connecting, maybe a couple, but very nicely done there, just dodging those shots from the Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower, making sure it does minimal work in these opening few seconds over here. You can see, meanwhile, the Deepwood Scouts as well, pulling back into safety a little bit, I think, just hoping to isolate some units perhaps, but one of them does get spotted, so they are now, or rather the High Elves now are aware of the situation over here, while the leadership from the Wood Elves here continues to zigzag and dodge these Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower shots. Very nice to see that. Wasted ammunition from the Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower. Excellent micromanagement off on that left flank over there. You can see the Sisters of the Thorn continue their aggressive maneuvers here, pushing in from the sides, hoping to get some damage done, I think, nice and early, while the Illyrian Reaver Archers are on their way up. As you can see, of course, there's no Vanguard deployment behind them, so they are pushing forward to get involved in the frontline engagements, as soon as they start. While over here, you can see the Eagle Claw Bolt Throwers continue to fire away to hopefully get some damage, and then finally some shots are landing there, while now we have a little bit of focus fire going into these Deepwood Scouts, while the Deepwood Scouts respond in kind, focusing in on some of these archers, and a lot of traded shots over here, of course, a very archer-heavy army from both sides of the field, and a lot of damage being done on both sides as well. You can see these Deepwood Scouts are not having a good time, but in response, there's a much more concentrated amount of focus fire going down, so these archers are absolutely devastated. They're already eating a lot of damage. They're at about 50% health already, and that's about to drop even further. As you can see, that volley comes through, and they're giving up on the fight already as well. Their morale is extremely low. You can see over here the Illyrian Reaver Archers are pushing off to the side, hoping to get some damage into the Sisters of the Thorn, I think, and the Dragon Princes over here are hidden in the trees, so they will be able to pop out and provide some support. And meanwhile, up front over here, you can see we have a wonderful use of the Flock of Doom here, upgraded to cause some damage to both of these units, and very quick reaction time, as we can expect from Lotus Moon. The Deepwood Scouts over here get pulled back, and they bring that radius with them, ensuring that these Deepwood Scouts take minimal damage from that Flock of Doom. So wonderfully done, and take a look at this now. They're both moving off to the side over here, but maintaining that gap between these two units. So just beautiful to see that kind of micromanagement, dodging the damage from the Flock of Doom. Meanwhile, you can see over here, the Glade Lord is pushing in threateningly, hoping for an opportunity to use some magic over here. You can see we have the Prey of Anathrema going down on the Lothern Seaguard, and a great 1-2 punch over here, holding these guys in place so she can stand there and just pop the Forest Dragon's breath, and it comes in and it does a lot of work. Take a look at this. Take a look at that health bar just drop completely to about, 10%, 25% is all that's left there, so very wonderfully done over there, but the Glade Lord needs to get out of there, eating a lot of damage now, has lost about 25% of her health, so needs to fall back, while over here on the right, you can see we have the Illyrian Reaver Archers pulling back into safety as the Sisters of the Thorn are giving chase, so they can hop into melee if necessary, if push comes to shove, and they will cause a fair bit of damage to these Illyrian Reaver Archers. The Illyrian Reaver Archers are, of course, firing back in response and doing a touch of damage here and there, but the more threatening cavalry unit are these Dragon Princes that are still tucked away in the trees, but if they get pulled out, the Sisters of the Thorn will be in a terrible situation. I think hoping to bait these guys in a little bit deeper before sending these guys in to engage, or maybe before turning around some of these units over here to engage and hold those Sisters of the Thorn in place. Up front, meanwhile, you can see we have these Deepwood Scouts continuing to fire away as the Lothern Seaguard decide to turn around. They're going to show their backs to all of those arrows, and they will take a fair bit of hurt there, and you can see back here the Sisters of the Thorn as well now deciding to disengage as the Lothern Seaguard turn around, because they are quite threatening in melee and in range. Meanwhile, over here, you can see the Glade Lord is taking quite a few risks here, just floating within range of all of these ranged units. It's not a good idea at all. Should have pulled back into safety, should have stayed away from some of these ranged units, and then pushed in once more when her abilities regenerated. So I'm not entirely sure why she's staying so precariously, dangerously close to the enemy. Meanwhile, up front over here, you can see the Deepwood Scouts are doing quite the number on the Lothran Seaguard, and you can see at the same time the Spearmen are slowly creeping forward, I think hoping to close the gap or maybe scare the Deepwood Scouts off, but of course they are not in skirmish mode, so they're able to stay there and wait and fire away until those guys get too close. Meanwhile, over here, the Dragon Princes finally have popped their charge, and they're trying to move into the Sisters of the Thorn, but of course, as they take cover behind these Eternal Guard, the Dragon Princes have to turn around and pull back into safety, and they take some bit of damage as they do so. Those spears from the Sisters of the Thorn come in, the javelins rather, I guess, and do a touch of damage, not too much, but enough to force them back. And back here, you can see at the same time the Glade Lord, again, putting herself in a dangerous situation, is nearing 50% health now, and all those shots from the Lyran Reaver archers just keeping her at bay, keeping her in the air. But the Lothran Seaguard, you can see, are still routing. I think their morale dropped significantly when they got hit by that breath, so they are still falling apart back there. And up front over here, you can see the archers and the Deepwood Scouts continue to exchange fire, and at the same time, the Eagle Claw bolt throwers now have sort of wisened up, I guess, and they're focusing in on the Deepwood Scouts instead as well, using their anti-infantry capabilities, hoping to hurt these archer units as quickly as possible. And another Flock of Doom goes down, and again, excellent micromanagement over here. You can see both of these units have been hit by the Flock of Doom, but these guys do get separated ever so slightly, allowing these Deepwood Scouts to stay safe from that radius of the Flock of Doom. So beautiful work there, but you can see that center unit is taking a lot of hurt. Flock of Doom is an excellent spell, especially on clumps, and these two Deepwood Scouts that have been focused in by the Flock of Doom on two separate occasions have taken a lot of damage, and they are about ready to fall apart. Back here, though, the Lothran Seaguard willing to fight once more. You can see again the Glade Lord just flying back and forth within the range of all of these units, so not a good call there whatsoever. Sort of a counter to the great micromanagement we saw earlier. Back here, the Sisters of the Thorn, meanwhile, are getting shot at by the Lyran Reaver archers as well. They need to make a quick decision whether to stay or to leave, while the Eagle Claw bolt throwers now continue to focus in on these Deepwood Scouts that remain in range, hoping to get some damage done there, spreading some of that love, as I like to say. And over here as well, you can see these Deepwood Scouts are made to rout under the pressure of all of that ranged support. Back here, again, the Glade Lord still within range. Just feel the need to point that out repeatedly, and the Eagle Claw bolt thrower, as you can see, continues to fire away as well, as these guys remain within range, causing a fair bit of damage, dropping these guys by about 25% of their hit points. And the archers, again, continue to fire away as well, hoping to get some damage into these Deepwood Scouts and get that crucial set of units from the Wood Elves off the field sooner rather than later. And over here, you can see again these Lyran Reaver archers are pushing off to the left over here, hoping to fire away at the Glade Lord. And as the Eternal Guard sort of came close in the hopes of, I guess, shutting down some of these Lyran Reaver archers, they had to immediately turn around and fall back. There's a lot of threatening units over here. There are a lot of threatening units, rather, I should say. So they don't really stand a chance. These guys are isolated off to the side over here, and there's not much they can do if they get spotted like that. Back here, you can see the Sisters of the Thorn as well, just looking for an opportunity, I think, to dive in, while up front, the Deepwood Scouts continue to take a pummeling from all that artillery fire. They're taking their shots at these Spearmen, though, as they have sort of ventured far too close, and the Spearmen, these guys do have their silver shields, so they're not going to take too much damage if they're taking shots to their fronts. While back here, you can see the Glade Lord continues to be focused down on. I think the Eternal Guard maybe used as bait there a little bit, but not quite working, as the Glade Lord continues to get a fair bit of damage into her. And you can see over here as well, the Sisters of the Thorn now pushing in, hoping to get some work done, maybe draw some aggro to the Sisters of the Thorn instead. And the Deepwood Scouts continue to fire away now, as these Spearmen are trying to close the gap, I think, over here, and again, scare off some of these Deepwood Scouts. The artillery is doing a great job of keeping them falling back and eating a fair bit of damage. And at the same time, over here, we'll have a little moments ago box on the top left, but these archers got hit by that 1-2 punch as well. The Prey of Anathrema holding them in place, and a beautiful breath from the Forest Dragon, just absolutely destroying this unit, dropping their health to about 10%. Dropping their morale significantly, and that's the bigger blow. Really, these guys are going to give up on the fight. There's the route, as you can see. They've already decided to leave, and the Glade Lord once again just pulling back into safety. So good call there, sort of moving in, using the breath, pulling back, move in, use the breath, but unfortunately on that pull back, staying within range of all of these ranged units, and that's the part where it's all falling apart for the Glade Lord. Over here, though, you can see the Spearmen are again just trying to close the gap over here, and they're eating a lot of damage as a result. All these Deepwood Scouts are able to fire away in response, and these Deepwood Scouts as well, if they so choose, could fire away into the Spearmen. The Spearmen decide to retreat, and now they're exposing their backs to all of these archers, and that's very dangerous. Of course, the shields don't face their backs. They quickly turn around, though. Very fortunate there. And those shots just doing a fair bit of damage. They're dropped down to about 50% health, and they can be very quickly taken care of as they are now isolated. You can see over here the Lyran Reaver archers continue to fire away at the distance over here into the Spellsinger of Life now, while over here we've got the Glade Lord trying to dive in maybe on these archers, maybe scare them off, but again, just moving within range and now eating a lot of damage, so having to pull back into safety once more. The Spearmen, once again, you can see over here focusing down on these Spearmen. They're eating a lot of damage, but they are getting some support from the High Elf archers off in the distance over there. as the spearmen try to close the gap over here. But again, the Deepwood Scouts, they are able to move and shoot, so of course they're going to scoot and shoot. They pull back, continue to fire away at the spears, while over here you can see the War Dancers with the Asrai Spear are moving in as well, hoping to eliminate the spearmen before they're able to cause any serious damage. And again, volleys are going back and forth. The War Dancers with the Asrai Spear and the spearmen charge into each other, and the War Dancers with the Asrai Spear here are not going to have any trouble whatsoever. In fact, those spearmen rout more or less immediately as the charges go through, but you can see at the same time all of the archers are focusing in on those War Dancers with the Asrai Spear. They are a very threatening unit, they are a very scary unit, so hoping to take those guys down as they've moved into range and are exposing themselves a little bit to all the range capabilities of the High Elves. Back here you can see the Glade Lord and the Spellslinger of Beasts as well moving in now to try and take care of these archers that decided to rally, ultimately finishing these guys off as they all push in, clump in, and get those guys to rout once more. These archers up front, again, continue to focus in on these War Dancers with the Asrai Spear, dropping their health significantly as well. Again, they've lost about 25% of their health within a couple of volleys, and you can see over here we've got these Eternal Guard pushing forward and these Deepwood Scouts firing away as well, while the Illyrian Reaver archers have found this gap to push through. One of them got fired upon and decided to rout, but the other one is able to close the gap into these Deepwood Scouts, and they're going to cause a lot of damage. Great work over there, and seeing that the War Dancers with the Asrai Spear were distracted and have taken a fair bit of damage, using that gap to push into melee and take care of those Deepwood Scouts. Wonderfully done. Even if they are lost, they've done a lot of work over here, and all the way back here you can see we have a lot of action going down as the Eternal Guards over here were able to charge into the backs of the Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower over here, and this massive clump got hit by the Curse of Anrair, reducing the melee capabilities and the accuracy where it matters, of course, but I think more importantly for the Eternal Guard's sake, reducing the melee capabilities of the Dragon Princes. Unfortunately, there was an immediate response. The Eternal Guard were hit by the Enfeebling Foe, and you can see the Enfeebling Foe is doing a lot of work to reduce their melee attack to 0 and their melee defense to just 9. So these guys are going to fall apart as these Dragon Princes as well push in with that charge. In comes a Flock of Doom from the Wood Elves, so causing a fair bit of damage to these High Elf units over here. Unfortunately, though, they are not using an extended Flock of Doom, so it doesn't last very long, and you can see the Eternal Guard here absolutely falling apart. They're not going to stick around. They're going to give up on the fight. There is the rout, and the Forest Dragon as well, or rather the Glade Lord, is looking for an opportunity to get involved, while up front over here you can see the Eternal Guards charge in on these archers, finally closing the gaps over here, getting into melee and getting those guys to give up. And over here you can see we have yet another 1-2 punch happening. Take a look at this. The Dragon Princes get hit by the Prey of Anathrema. The Glade Lord is turning around to get her wonderful breath in here, and this must be immensely frustrating. Take a look at this. These Dragon Princes continue to charge forward despite being hit by the Prey of Anathrema, and as a result of that, the breath does next to no damage. Maybe knocking down a couple models over here. Literally one individual gets killed by that breath. So I can only imagine how frustrating that would have been, but the Dragon Princes have taken a fair bit of damage. They have lost about 25% of their health, so at least there's that, I suppose. Consolation prize. The Glade Lord, though, still looking for an opportunity to get involved. You can see back here the Sisters of the Thorn getting involved as well, pushing into the Eagle Claw Bolt Throwers in the center. Over here we have another Flock of Doom coming down from the Wood Elves, again causing hurt to the High Elves. We also have the Curse of Honor here, just trying to make sure that these Dragon Princes, I think, are minimized in their capabilities, but in response we also have the net of a Mintuck on these Sisters of the Thorn, so they are stuck in place against some Lothern Seaguard that are, of course, anti-large, and the Dragon Princes are going to do quite the number on those poor, unfortunate Sisters of the Thorn. Off in the distance over here, though, you can see these Illyrian River Archers have been ultimately taken care of. They were made to rout, and the Deepwood Scouts, in a terrible state as they are still alive, and they can still get involved in these main engagements if they so choose. Back here you can see as well, we've got the Curse of Anrair still active as the Glade Lord decides to dive in to this clump over here. A very dangerous situation. There's a Spearman right there, there's a Dragon Prince unit right there as well, so the Glade Lord is in a terrible spot there. The Enfeebling Foe comes in once more, this time on the Glade Lord, dropping melee defense to 13, a precarious situation, as I like to say. That Glade Lord is not going to have a good time. At the same time, you can see we've got the Spellslinger as well, flying around, looking for an opportunity to get involved. Teclis over here in a terrible spot as well, taking a lot of damage off of these charges, and the both the Spellslingers here are able to cause a fair bit of hurt. Teclis is not a fighter, he's more of a lover. He needs to pull back into safety. The Glade Lord as well in the air now, using Shield of Thorns to increase weapon damage and missile resistance, I think the latter more importantly, and the Enfeebling Foe is still active, so waiting, I think, for that to get worn down. There it goes, and now turning around and pushing in perfectly timed for that charge into Teclis, and Teclis' health is going to drop significantly, just below 50% now, while these Illyrian River Archers decide to come back into the fight. They eat a couple of shots, so these guys, you can see, quickly rout these Deepwood Scouts, but the other Deepwood Scouts continue to fire away at these Illyrian River Archers, hoping to eliminate that very threatening unit. In the center over here, again, you can see we've got a Flock of Doom coming in once more from the Wood Elves, again, not extended, but a beautiful clump to use it on, and in comes a nice charge from the Sisters of the Thorn as well, hoping to get some rear charges, I think, into these Spearmen over here, into the Lothern Seaguard as well, and maybe drop the morale on these Dragon Princes. They are very low on morale, about 25% left. A good rear charge could take care of them, but then you can see right away the Sisters of the Thorn actually turn around and chase after Teclis, who has been terrified by the Forest Dragon of the Glade Lord, hoping to pin Teclis down and eliminate him. Great call over there. If leadership drops right now for the High Elves, then it'll be a devastating blow, and the Wood Elves might actually come out on top. Back here you can see the Eternal Guard are being taken care of by the Dragon Princes as they push in to this massive clump over here, and you can see the Lothern Sea Guard as well as all of these Spearmen are doing a lot of damage to the Spellslinger of Life and of Beasts. A terrible situation for them to be in. Again, they are not really fighters per se. The Sisters of the Thorn over here dive into the Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower as well, trying to eliminate some units, hoping to maybe cause a mass rout, while back here you can see the Illyrian Reaver Archers continue to cause a lot of pain and trouble to these Deepwood Scouts. They are trying to get away, split apart, and fire away at these Illyrian River Archers and hope that they rout and give up on the fight. The Deepwood Scouts back here are still routing. These Illyrian Reaver Archers were made to rout, and now these guys are routing as well. So great work there using the Deepwood Scouts in that very dangerous situation, getting these guys to get scared off. And the balance of power up until now was very much in favor of the Wood Elves. They were doing very well, but you can see as this center starts to fall apart for the Wood Elves, the balance of power is slowly shifting back to that center point. So good job by the High Elves sort of regaining their foothold. You can see these Wood Elf units to the left and to the right are beginning to give up. Teclis, though, is on the route as well, so that's not going to bode well for the High Elves. Of course, you can see the Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower over here completely taken care of, routing now, very close to, I think, shattering the Spellslinger of Life, though, from the Wood Elves, very close to giving up as well. The Dragon Princes are doing a lot of work over here, dropping the Sisters of the Thorn as well, getting them to give up on the fight. The Archers over here are very much terrified, and the Glade Lord, again, just looking for an opportunity to get involved, I think, while the Deepwood Scouts are now finally within range to fire away at these clumps over here. But you can see these Eternal Guards are not going to have the best of times, unfortunately. Even with this magical support coming in, we have another Flock of Doom, but again, not an upgraded one, not an extended one, so it's not going to last very long, but it will do a fair bit of damage to this beautiful clump over here, and these Eternal Guards need all the help they can get. We have this unit over here that is more or less at full health. They've just lost a little bit of health, but a charge or two will do a lot of work, and as you can see, the Dragon Princes are very, very close. Over here as well, you can see these Sisters of the Thorn do get hit by the enfeebling foe, I think just to make sure they get taken care of a lot quicker, and these Dragon Princes continue to give their incessant chase and then ultimately decide to fall back and get involved in the central clump. If they can take care of some of these central units over here, like these Deepwood Scouts just got hit by that charge, then the High Elves stand a wonderful chance, and you can see these Eternal Guard over here not having the best of times, and in comes another charge from the other unit of Dragon Princes. Beautiful work over there, just dropping their health and dropping their morale as well. The other Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower back here now does get engaged by this unit of War Dancers with the Outstretched Spear and this Eternal Guard unit, but these Dragon Princes push in to rescue the Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower, and very well done there, because that Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower was firing away at the Glade Lord and caused a lot of hurt. Back over here you can see we have another Flock of Doom going down. Again, a beautiful clump over here, just trying to cause some hurt, but these Dragon Princes get pulled back into safety as that Flock of Doom slowly causes some trickle damage to these Spearmen over here, and the Lothern Sea Guard over here as well. But you can see these Eternal Guard have given up on the fight, and these Dragon Princes again are pushing in to maybe reinforce the Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower back here. These War Dancers have shattered, so that's a very strong unit that has completely given up on the fight, while back here these Sisters of the Thorn are pushing in towards these Archers, hoping to get another charge in and get these guys to shatter, then ultimately decides to turn around and get involved against some of these Dragon Princes, maybe act as a bit of a flak troop over here, maybe act as a distraction, decide to pull back into safety as the Dragon Princes do in fact get distracted there. But you can see back here the Glade Lord is in a terrible situation. All of that range fire coming in from the Lothern Sea Guard. We've got the Eagle Claw Bolt Throwers as well firing away, again just hoping to drop Wood Elf leadership, because that will be a devastating blow. It goes both ways, of course. Another beautiful Flock of Doom going down over here. A lot of damage being done to this massive clump, and you can see the Deepwood Scouts are giving up on the fight over here. We've got this shattered Eternal Guard unit pulling back into safety. These Deepwood Scouts are out of ammo. These guys have given up on the fight as well, while these Sisters of the Thorn continue to get chased by these Dragon Princes, dropping some of those Dragon Princes with their javelins. So these Dragon Princes ultimately turn around and decide to get back involved in this central clump over here, where this Eternal Guard unit, as you can see, has taken a lot of damage now. They've held their position, but they are nowhere near coming out on top in their engagement. So those Dragon Princes are going to come in with some nice rear charges and hope to come out on top. Ultimately, you can see we have a little bit of support coming in the form of the Shield of Thorns, but that is not going to be enough. These guys are going to be severely outnumbered and fully surrounded, and off in the distance you can see the Glade Lord has decided to give up on the fight, is very close to shattering, very close to dying as well, and ultimately that results in shatters across the board for the Wood Elves, and the High Elves take the day in a glorious battle with a Pyrrhic victory. Now, after a prolonged skirmish on foot and on horseback, the High Elves were able to come out on top as a result of some great use of ranged cavalry in melee, better use of magic, and simply having superior melee forces. The double caster may have been an expensive risk taken by the Wood Elves, and the early maneuvers on the Glade Lord resulted in a lot of damage being done to Wood Elf leadership early on, except for where she was being really well micromanaged. Now, don't get me wrong, both commanders led brilliantly, but the High Elves turned things around gloriously. As always, make sure you subscribe to this channel for more Total War content and keep sending in those battle replays. I do think it's one of the best ways to learn, and it's always nice to highlight such great battles from the community. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the battlefield.